Hi everyone, in this video we are learning more about Microsoft Excel in Chapter 15 of the Go All-in-One series. In this lesson you will learn how to apply Excel functions, create and modify tables, and how to manage workbooks with multiple pages. So in this video I will walk you through step by step of the homework assignment, the Grader Project, Excel 15G, Inventory. Alright, let's get started. I already have downloaded my start file and I have a hard copy of the instructions next to me. Remember, the activities for this chapter relate to the Rosedale Landscape and Garden Company. And in the following project we're going to edit a worksheet that summarizes the inventory of bulbs and trees for the Pasadena facility. So as I mentioned, I have a hard copy of the instructions next to me, and the very first step is for us to open the workbook and download the project, and we have done that. Step number 2 asks us to change the theme to Slice. So to change my theme, I want to go to my Page Layout tab, select my Page Layout tab, there we go, and under Themes we're going to go ahead and locate Slice. Notice in the background it changes the style and the formatting, as well as the font size and styles. Alright, so next we are going to look down at our tab here, and notice we have Sheet 1, Sheet 2. We're going to rename these, and so there's a couple ways that we can rename them. The way that I like to rename them is do a right click and we can say rename, and just simply type in the new name, which is Bulbs, B-U-L-B-S, and then we're going to rename Sheet 2. An alternative to doing the right click is to simply double click and then simply type T-R-E-E-S. We're going to call that one Trees. There is another option in terms of renaming, again selecting the tab that you wanted to work on, and from the, trying to remember which tab this is because I don't use it that often. We do have a under the cells there should be an option in here that says rename sheet. So there's a third option for renaming a worksheet. Alright, so we can move on. Let's make the bulb sheet our active sheet. So we'll go ahead and just make sure that's my active sheet, and that was step number 2. Step number 3. To the right of column B, we are going to click in column B, because to the right of column B we want to insert 2 new columns. So because we want the empty columns to be here, we need to select both columns C and D. And to insert, I simply will, again, I like to right click whenever possible, and there's an option to insert. Because I have 2 columns selected, it's going to insert 2 columns for me. Next we are going to use the Flash Fill, and Flash Fill, what it does is it recognizes a pattern in your data, and then it automatically fills in the values when you enter that information. Alright, so we will start here in column C, and what we're going to do is we want to make sure that each column of data has a single item of information. We see here in column B that we have an item number and category, and what we want to do is we want to split those up and make one column the item number and another column the category. So with my cell in C, my cursor at C15 as my active cell, I'm going to type in 1239, and I then come up to my formula bar and I'm going to choose Enter, and then on my Home tab in my editing group I'm going to go to the Fill tool. I'm going to hit that down arrow, my options arrow, and then I'm going to choose Flash Fill. Again, the Flash Fill recognizes a pattern in my data and then it automatically fills in the value. Alright, so we can see that it extracted the data, the information from column B. We're going to do the same thing in column D. I'm going to type in daffodils. Again, go up to my formula bar and choose the Enter key. Come over to my Home tab in the Editing group, the Fill tool, Flash Fill, and it will fill that information down. Now notice it automatically placed in a category heading here for category. All right, so it may or may not do that. If it doesn't do that, because that's what we're going to do in the next step, in step number 4, we're going to place in a label for our flowers called category in cell D14, and in C14 we're going to type in item number. Make sure there's a space after, and make sure you spell it correctly. We got item number. So we type in the item number for our column title in column C, category as our column title in column D. All right, and I hit my Enter key to make that information within that cell. Next, we want to come back and delete column B, all right, because we no longer need the information that is in this column because we've now extracted that data from that column and we've separated it and made it into 2 separate columns. So I'm going to come over to column B. I'm going to select the column from the column area, and I want to delete this column. I simply do a right click and I choose delete. We're going to use our cut and paste commands next, and we want to cut column C and we want to paste it into column G. All right, so I'm going to come over and again select my column. I'm going to go up to my clipboard group and I'm going to use my scissors, my cut tool. I'm going to cut that, and notice we get that moving border around that. I'm going to come over here and select column G, and I'm going to do a right click and I'm going to say paste. So I've now moved that information. Now again we have an empty column here, so we need to get rid of that. So I'm going to come back over and I'm going to choose delete, do a right click and then choose delete, and that removes that column, that empty column C. And then the last thing we want to do is auto fit our columns through A through F. Now we learned how to do this in the previous chapter. So I select my column headings and I go to up in the column area where any of my columns meet, and I do a double click. So that completes step number 4. Now step number 5 asks us to display the trees worksheet, and we're going to repeat these steps that we did for steps 3 and 4 that we did on for the bulbs worksheet, and we're going to apply it to the trees worksheet. So the first thing that we need to do is insert, remember, two columns. So I'm going to select my column area. I'm going to do a right click. I'm going to say insert. And then I'm going to come down to cell C15 and I'm going to type in the first item number 1783. And on my formula bar, I'm going to hit the Enter key. And then I'm going to come over to my editing group. I'm going to locate the Fill tool and then the Flash Fill. I'm going to come then to my cell D15 and I'm going to type in nut trees. Again, come up to my formula bar and choose the Enter key. Come back over to the editing group and select Fill Series. Now notice here in cell D, what is that, D14, it automatically applies both item and category, and that's not correct. So I can either double click to get inside to remove that, or I could come right up to my formula bar and remove the label name for that particular category that doesn't apply. So we just want that to be category, and then over in column C we're going to insert item number. All right, so that was the first thing that we did, right? So we separated the information. The next thing that we want to come in and we want to remove this because we no longer need column B. So I'm going to do a right click and choose delete. And then I'm going to select column G, or I'm sorry, select column C, and we're going to copy it and we're going to paste it into column G. So I'll do a cut. Actually, we're not copying, we're cutting. So I'm going to use the scissors. I'm going to cut. I'm going to come to column G. I can't see it because my screen isn't large enough. However, let me just do this real quick. Let me minimize that so that when I do a right click, and I'm hoping that this isn't getting chopped off, but I'm going to go ahead and do a paste. Come back over to column C. We no longer need this because it's now empty. Do a right click, choose delete. And the final thing we come back in is select all of our rows and columns or in the column heading, and we can do a best fit, right, or an automatic fit. Okay, so that is step number 5. We just repeated what we did for steps 3 and 4. Okay, so now in step number 6, we're going to make the following calculations in each of our worksheets. But they don't want us to group the worksheets. Now, to be efficient, we could. However, they're asking us not to, so we're going to do these individually. So first, I'm going to go up to cell, I'm on my trees worksheet, and I'm going to click in cell B4. This is my total items in stock. And we're going to enter in a function that's going to sum the quantity of the items that we have in stock, right? So here is the cell where the function is going to be, all right? So a sum function. This is a predefined formula that's going to add all the numbers in a selected range of cells, okay? So the range of cells is going to be the B15, actually A15 through let's scroll all the way down, A42. All right, but first we need to put in the function. And there's a couple of ways that we can put in a sum function. Now this is one of the most common, if not most popular function. And it's on our home tab. It's in the editing group. So if I choose that tool, it's automatically going to place in the function, but it doesn't know what the parameters are. And so I just simply like to click and drag. So I'm going to click and drag down, and I'm going to place in that range. So it takes that range A15 to A42, and then I'm going to hit the Enter key on my keyboard, and it tells me that I have 3,503 total items in stock. Next, what I want to do is find the average price. All right, so I'm going to do the same. Something it's going to be very similar, but obviously I'm not going to be using the sum function. I'm going to be using the average function because I want the average, and I also want to look at the price. So I'm going to be selecting the data from column D, which is where my retail price is. So the average function is another common function, and if I come over to the editing group in the on the home tab and I choose that down arrow, there's the average, right? So I'm going to make sure that I am in the cell where I would like this function to live, okay, which happens to be cell B5. And so I'm going to say average. Notice it's grabbing the data right above it because it finds a number, but that's incorrect, right? So we want to, again, draw. I like to click and drag and select the range, which is D15 through D42, and I'm scrolling back up, and I'm going to go and hit the Enter key on my formula bar, and that's going to return a value of $33.43. So we have that the average price is displayed in that cell. The next function that we're going to insert is below that, and that's going to be the median price. Again, this is a common function that is used, and if I go over to my home tab in the editing group and I go to my sum function, I'm going to see that the median is not listed here, but I could go to more functions, and because this is a statistical function, I could look it up by going to the statistical category, and I could scroll down and I can find, again, it's alphabetical, and this is going to be median. All right, so the median, remember when you look at the insert function tool here, this is the dialog box. It gives you a little explanation of the function itself. So here we can see that it's going to return the median, or the number in the middle of a set of given numbers. So what it does is it'll place it in order, and then it will give us that middle number. So I'm going to say OK. So it's going to place in that function, but it's thinking again that I want the values that are above, because that's by default, that's what Excel wants to do. All right, so I'm going to use this button. What this does is it minimizes that functions argument dialog box. All right, I'm moving that around so it might be a little easier for you to see that. And then when I have it selected, I can then open it back up and then choose OK. However, all right, so they want the median price. So we're still working with the data that is in column D. So I'm going to go ahead and select column D. I'm going to come back up to my functions argument dialog box, and then I'm going to see the ranges listed in there, and I'm going to say OK. All right, so it finds a median price of $35.50. The next statistical function that we want to look at is the lowest price, and this is our min function. Again, on the Home tab in the editing group, we go to the sum function, and we see that this, again, as I mentioned, this is a common function that is used. So by default, it's in the auto sum options before we go on and look at the entire library. So I want the min, and again, look, it wants to grab that data above, but we need to tell Excel where this data is. So again, we're talking about prices. So again, I'm going to click and drag the range. I come up to my formula bar and I hit the Enter key. Next, the next and final one that I want to do for this page is going to be my highest price. And so again, let's go back over to the Home tab, the sum function, and this time we're going to choose the max function. Again, see, it wants to grab that data, and we need to say no, 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 this is where this is the range of data. So we go ahead and select that range of data. I go to my formula bar and I hit the Enter key. And so we learn that our lowest price is $8, our highest price is $65. Next, we are going to apply a comma style to all of these. So they want us to enter a comma style with 0 decimals. Actually, just for this first one, we want to format this with a cell style of a comma with 0 decimals. All right, so we just get that a comma separator. And then for the other range of B5 through B8, because these are dollar values, we are going to apply an accounting number format. So I can just come right up to my numbers group and choose accounting. And it's placing the dollar symbol in there as well as 2 decimal places. All right, so now we have to do this for the other worksheet. All right, so I'm going to again go to my bulbs. I'll click on the bulbs worksheet. I'm going to come up to my total items in stock, and then here I'm going to place in my sum function. So I'm going to just do these rather quickly. I'll choose sum. Remember, I'm choosing the quantity in stock. And I'll put in my comma separator. All right, and I don't want any decimals because this is not a dollar value. These are items, right? So we don't put a dollar sign there. My average price, I'll come back over to average, and we're going to choose the average and select that range. And here's my median. More functions. We've used this before, so it should be under most recently used. There it is. I'll go ahead and say OK. The range that I want to use for my median is going to be the same range because I need to get the values under my retail price here. Go ahead and hit the enter key. Come back over here. I need to say OK first before I can say enter. OK, it enters the median price in. Next we have our lowest. I'll go back to my home tab and I can say min. Now there are other ways that we could have entered in this information. I could have done the typing, but I like to use the tools on the toolbar. And then finally we put in our max. Again, I select the range. Enter. I'm going to come back over, select this range of dollar values and apply an accounting number format. And we are done. Step number 6. Step number 6 was pretty intense, all right, but it's not as intimidating. So while we could have done them, we could have grouped the worksheets together because the data is in the same location on both worksheets. It would have worked. Why didn't we do that? Well, we want to get practice learning how to use those functions, and that's primarily why we did them separately for each worksheet. All right, let's move on to step number 7. So in step number 7, again, we are going to do these individually on each worksheet. We are going to make the following calculations, and again, as I mentioned, we're not going to group the worksheets, although we could, but I don't want you to, because it will, when you submit it to the grader, it will mark it as incorrect because you didn't do it individually on both. So just be aware of that. We're going to move to cell B10, and in B10 we're going to place in the COUNTIF function. Now, COUNTIF function, it'll count the number of cells in a range that contain numbers. The COUNTIF function is a statistical function that'll count the number of cells within a range that meets the given criteria, and the criteria is provided by the user. The COUNTIF function has 2 arguments, the range of cells to check as well as the criteria. So we are going to enter in a COUNTIF function that's going to determine how many different types of tulips that there are in stock on the bulbs worksheet. All right, so I'm on the bulbs worksheet and we're going to determine the number of tulip types. And then we're going to go to the trees worksheet and we're going to figure out the number of evergreens. All right, so I'll return back to my bulbs worksheet. In cell B10, all right, so we are in cell B10, and let's enter in our COUNTIF function. So number of ways we can enter this in. If we know the name of the function, I can begin with equals and start typing it out. All right, that only works if you know the name of the function. So I'm going to back out of that. We could go up to the formula tab. It is a statistical function and it's going to be located under more functions. Here is the category and it is COUNTIF. So we're saying COUNTIF. All right, so in the range, we need to specify the range. Remember, we said there's two pieces that we need. There's 2 arguments, right? So the first is going to be the range. So we're going to select the range of where this would live, all right, which happens to be cell B15 through F15 to F42. And the criteria, and I have no idea why this is acting funny. Let me pause and I'm going to see if I can fix this, okay? All right, so I wasn't quite sure why my screen got suddenly large. All right, so that's the range. We want F15 through F42, and the criteria that we are looking for is the word tulips. And so we specify that in here, TULIPS, and I say OK, and it finds that tulips are in there 5 times. It finds 5 occurrences of that. All right, so next we're going to go to our trees worksheet, and in the evergreen type, we're going to do the same exact thing. So we'll go up to the formula tab, more functions, statistical, scroll on down till we find COUNTIF, and say again, it's counting if it finds it. If it finds it, we're going to add them together. So the range of data is going to be under the category. I select that, and again, it's acting a little funky on me. The criteria is going to be evergreens. I'm just going to keep plugging away here. I'll say OK. All right, and it finds 4 occurrences of the evergreens, or 4 types, I should say, of evergreens. All right, so that was step number 7. Step number 8, again, without grouping our worksheets, they want us to determine our stock levels. So let's go to in cell G14. In cell G14, I'm going to type in the word stock level. Again, we're going to do this on both worksheets. So I'm going to, well, we'll just complete this and then we'll go back and do the bulbs. And then in cell G15, we're going to construct an if function that's going to determine the items that must be ordered. So our if function, let's get a formal definition of this, right? It's a logical test, right? So a logical test is any value or expression that can be evaluated as being true or false. And the if function uses a logical test to check whether a condition is met. And then it will return one value if it's true and another one if it's false. All right, so that's what we're doing here in cell for our stock levels. So we're going to, let's see, where am I at here? We are on step number 8. So in G15, here's our if function. This is a logical test. It's in the logical category. I'm going to choose if. Again, it opens up my functions argument dialog box, and the conditional test is this. All right, we are going to say if my quantity in stock is less than 75. All right, so this is the cell where my quantity in stock is. All right, we're going to fill this down, but there's my quantity in stock, and I'm going to say if this value is less than, so I'm going to use my less than symbol, is 75. So that's what I'm testing. I'm saying if my quantity in stock is less than 75, if it's true, if my quantity in stock is less than 75, I know that my quantity is low. I need to place an order. So I'm going to have it display order. If I say if it's false, all right, if it's more than 70 or less, if it is less than 75, then I need to place an order. If it's more than 75, then I know that my values are okay. I don't need to place an order, so I'm simply just going to say okay. And then I will confirm that in that box. I'll say okay. And if I look at this test, here it says 49. We take 49 is less than 75. Is that true or false? That's true, right? So we need to place an order. We'll go ahead and fill this down for our data on the trees worksheet. Now again, we're going to go to the bulbs worksheet, and we're going to again insert a new column heading here. We're going to call these stock levels. Plain old stock level, not plural, stock level. And again, we're going to put in that logical function, that if function. The test is saying, again, if our quantity in stock is less than 75, then let's place an order. If it's not, tell me that my levels are okay, and I can fill that down. All right, so that was step number 8. Okay, and again, notice they're having us do these without grouping the worksheets. We want to have some practice with that. And that is the rationale behind that. Step number 9, without grouping our worksheets, again, we're going to apply some conditional formatting to both of our worksheets. Now, conditional formatting is going to change the appearance of the cell based on a condition, a criteria. If the condition is true, the cell is going to be formatted based on that condition. If it's false, then the cell's not formatted. Plain and simple as that. All right, so we are going to use conditional formatting to draw attention to our stock levels. All right, so with that range selected, all right, I want to apply some conditional formatting. Now, conditional formatting is located on the Home tab. In the Styles group, we see conditional formatting, and because they're asking me to choose text that contains, a cell that contains the text. So I'm looking for highlight cells. Just go ahead and browse through these, but we're going to stick in that top category there, and we are looking for text that contains. All right, and now we need to fill in the blank. So what does the text need to meet? What's the criteria? We want it to say orders, because that's the one that we want to call attention to. Or plain old order, I should say, order. And they want it to be formatted with bold italics and a font color that's set to automatic, and a fill color is set to no color. If you look off to the right, we have some default settings. All right, the options that they are asking us to use here are not here, so that should tell you that it's going to be a custom format, and then we will fill in the blanks here to apply these settings. So first it's going to be a bold italic. Go ahead and select that. My font color is set to automatic, so that is set to automatic. That's fine. My fill color is set to no color. I need to activate that fill tab, and I need to choose no color. Make sure that that is selected. And I will say OK, and then OK again. Next, I'm going to go over to my quantity in stock. I'm going to select that range, and I'm going to again go back to my conditional formatting, and this time they want data bars. And the data bars, we're going to apply a gradient, so go to the gradient category, and I believe it's a light blue. Is it a, yes, it's just plain old blue. All right, so we apply conditional formatting to both columns A and G. They're two different types of conditional formatting, but conditional formatting nonetheless. So again, let's go over to the Trees tab, and the stock level is selected, so I'll go to my conditional formatting, my highlighting cells, text that contains. I want the word order, O-R-D-E-R, right? This is a custom format, so I will fill in the blanks. Remember, it's going to be a no color. My font is going to be a bold italics. My color is automatic, and I say OK once. I say OK again. I will come back over to my column A and select the quantity in stock, and I will apply my conditional formatting of my data bars using the gradient fill of blue data bars. All right, so that is step number 9. Step number 10. Step number 10, we are going to be on the bulbs worksheet, so I'll make bulbs my active worksheet, and we're going to take our data here and we're going to convert this into a table. Okay, so let me go ahead. I'm going to minimize, come down maybe even to 80% so you can see more of my information here. So we're going to take the range of A14 to G42, so I can go ahead and I can select that range. And I'm going to convert this into a table. All right, so when we convert information into a table, we are placing it into a way that allows us to filter and sort our data. Okay, and so we are going to go up to our Insert tab, and there's an option for tables. All right, they want us to use a table style, a light orange table style, light 20. All right, so format as a table. All right, so this is the tool they would like you to use. Okay, so under the, because it automatically is going to apply some format to it. So the style is a light orange table style, so I know I'm going to be in the light area. It's orange. I go directly to that. They want a number 20, so I'm just going to scroll on down till I find the number 20. So there it is, light orange table style, light 20. And notice what it does is it's asking me, we need to confirm that we are going to format this as a table. Notice the check mark is in there that my table has headers. All right, yes, I do have headers because this quantity in stock is a header that identifies the contents of that particular column. Item number identifies the contents of that columns, and as you can see that going forward, all right, through the remaining columns. So I'm going to say OK. Soon as I say OK, I have now converted I've converted this range of cells into an Excel table. Now an Excel table is a series of rows and columns that contains related data, and it's managed independently from the data in other rows and columns in the worksheet. All right, so I can do a lot of pretty amazing things when I have converted my data into an Excel table. First thing we are going to do is we're going to insert a total row. All right, so when we insert a total row, notice I have a Table Tools contextual tab. All right, here it is. Here, if I click inside, there it is. There's my design. Notice that I have a header row. All right, so if I scroll to the top, I have a header row, and we have these little filter arrows. All right, I have banded rows. Banded rows, there's a little check mark in there. Banded means that every other row is shaded. All right, so from my table styles options, these are the only two check marks. Just to show you what would happen if I unchecked it, you can see the band disappears. We want to keep that in there. Just showed that to you so you could see what would happen. And I noticed that it undid this. I'm actually going to undo and then redo. I'm wondering if it's supposed that this column, I guess, maybe is supposed to look like that because of the underlying information there. So I'm not too concerned about that. Okay, but we want to turn on the total row. All right, and what that does is it automatically places a total row at the end of the information, at the end of the data in our worksheet. So once we've inserted a total row, they want us to filter the category for tulips. So I'm going to go up to my category heading, and I'm going to filter. So I'm going to use that down arrow, and I only want to see my tulips. So I can uncheck, uncheck, uncheck. The easy way is to uncheck select all and then check tulips, and then I say OK. Next, what I would like to do is sum the quantity that I have in stock. So here's my quantity in stock. When I click on the word total and I see that arrow off to the right, I see that I have some options. I want to select sum. So it's going to give me that value of 433. So that's what we want to record in cell B11. I want my tulip total quantity, and I'm manually going to type in 433, and I hit the enter key. And I record that, as I said, in that value in cell B11. So in the bulb sheet, we formatted the range as a table. We inserted our total row. We filtered by our category for tulips. And then we entered in a sum for the quantity in stock column. All right, so that was number 10. Okay, so number 11, now we're going to select the table. We're going to clear the filter. All right, so I just need to be inside the table when we say select it. We want to clear the filter. So I come over to my category and I simply say clear filter from category. The next thing I want to do is sort the table by the item number. So I'm going to come over to my item number, again off to the right, and they want me to sort from smallest to largest. That's an ascending order. All right, so now my item column is sorted from the smallest. If I look at my quantity in stock, nope, we're not looking at that. We're looking at the actual number. All right, from smallest to largest. They want us to remove the total row. We don't no longer need that. So I need to activate my design tab and just uncheck the total row. The next thing that we're going to do for step 11 is on the page layout tab. Okay, so they're thinking ahead. They want to make sure that we can see the titles when we print these out. All right, so on the page layout tab, we're going to go to print titles, and we want to specify that a certain row that we want to repeat. So I need to choose rows to repeat at the top of each page, and that would be row 14. So I'm going to scroll back into my worksheet. I want it to repeat this information so that when I have multiple sheets, when I turn the page, I know what those values and what that information, what category that belongs to. So I'm simply going to click in the row area, and it places it in there as a reference, an absolute reference, which says always row 14. Oh, whatever's in row 14, that's what's going to be repeated at the top of every page. And if I do a print preview, we can see what this looks like. Right? So if I scroll down, right, so page 1, everything doesn't fit. When I go to page 2, I can see that they have the categories. Well, I guess everything, if we change the portrait to landscape, they don't ask us to do this just yet. Let's just, there we go. That makes more sense. Right, so this is page 2. There's page 1. All right, so now when I flip over, I can see, oh, this is what this information looks like. And I'm just double checking. It does not tell me to change my orientation. So at this point, I'm going to flip it back to a portrait, and let's go back to our document here. Scroll back up here. Okay, but we did repeat that. So let me just make sure I got that in there. Yep, it's in there. Okay, so now we are going to go to our trees. Now we're going to do some of what we just did from the bulbs worksheet. We're going to apply this to the trees worksheet. So on the trees worksheet, I'm now on step number 12. Okay, so I'm going to click in and select the range. I'm going to format A14 to G42, and I'm going to insert Home tab, Format as a Table, and this table is going to be formatted with a light green table style. So again, I'm going to figure out which one is green. I see one looks like tealish. That's a light green, and this is a light green. So light green, table style 19. Which one was this? That was light green 18. This is light green 19. All right, so make sure you have the right one. And again, all right, oh, I have to say okay, and it formats it. Remember, we have the banded rows, right? We see the header, we get that contextual tab that appears. We have our header row, which is the items in row 14, and we have our banded rows. We want to turn on the total row, all right? And here we want to, what are we going to do here? Because we're going to, obviously it's different type of data, we're going to filter something different. So, but I am going to go over to my category, and I'm going to, let's see, sort by evergreens. So I like to uncheck all and then check evergreens. I say OK. It only pulls out wherever it finds evergreens from that category. And then from my quantity in stock, I'm going to sum this column. It's 583, and I'm going to record that number 583 in cell B11. All right, so that was step number 12. In step number 13, we're going to clear the filter. All right, so I'm going to come back to where I applied that filter and simply say clear the filter. I'm going to then go to my item number, and I want to apply a smallest to largest for the sort. I want to remove the total row. I no longer need that information because I've already extracted that information and I've recorded it in the corresponding cell. And the next thing I want to do again is go to my page layout. Under my print titles and the rows that I want to repeat, I'll click in the cell first, and then I select the row, and then I say OK. All right, so that is step number 13. Now, step number 14 is going to have us group the worksheets. All right, they're going to show us how we can group the worksheets, and we can cut our time in half. All right, now we could have done this throughout the entire activity. All right, again, practice is key to learning how to use these functions and these tools within Excel. So it wasn't all for naught. It's good practice. So we're going to group the two worksheets. How do we group them? I like to do a right click and then choose select all. All right, we could have gone to the home tab, and under format, do I have it under here? There is another option. Choose select all. Can't quite remember where that's located, but there is another option. Okay, so I've selected both my worksheets, and we are going to merge and center our title that we have in A1 from A1 to G1. So I select A1 to G1, I come up to my alignment group, I say merge and center, and I'm going to apply a title cell style. Go to cell styles. Here is my title cell style. And then we're going to do our subheading. Same range, A2 to G2. And this is going to be, again, let's do a merge and center. And we're going to apply a heading style 1. And we're going to auto fit column A. So I'm going to come back to column A, and I'm going to do a double click. With my worksheets still selected or still grouped, right? I'm now on item number 15. With these still grouped, we're going to center them horizontally. So we're going to go to our page layout, and we're going to change our orientation. So remember, we were playing around with that earlier. I'm just going to go right to my page setup dialog box, and I'm going to change the orientation to landscape. On my margins tab, I'm going to center that horizontally, and then we're going to put in a footer. In the left, we're going to put in the file name field. So we want that custom footer. So in the left section is going to be the file name field. And then let's go to OK. And then they want you to look at this in the print preview and then change our settings to fit all the columns on one page. All right, so we can see that we're getting, if we look through, we're getting, the columns are repeating, but I think we're okay here. My scaling seems to be okay, but let's just make sure that we want to fit all columns on one page. That will force it to fit on one page. So even if it looks like it will, sometimes if you add information, it can change. So we want to make sure that we have it set correctly, even though it may look correct. It may print correct, but it won't always if we don't set it, apply that particular setting. All right, so that is step number 15. So now we are on step number 16, and step 16 we begin by creating a summary of our worksheet. So let's go ahead, if you haven't already saved your information, go ahead and save your file. And we're going to ungroup the worksheet, so we can either do a right click and choose ungroup, or we can just simply click on a worksheet and that would ungroup it. Okay, so that's another option there. So, but let's make trees our active sheet, and we're going to insert a new worksheet. So I'm going to hit the plus sign, and I want to change the sheet name to summary. So I'll just do a double click and type in the word summary, and hit the enter key to make that the official name, right? And then we want to widen our columns A through D to 170 pixels. So I'm going to select A through D, and I'm going to come in between. I'm going to hold down my mouse, and I can see it's 104 pixels. And I'm just going to drag till that turns to 170. It's pretty delicate. See, I'm shuffling back and forth. There we go. And then I release once I hit 170. I want to move that summary worksheet so it's the first sheet in my workbook. So I'm going to click on the summary. I'm going to hold down my mouse, see that little caret there, and I'm going to make sure it's the first option. So now summary is the first sheet in the workbook. I'm going to scroll on up and select cell A1, and I'm going to type in Pasadena Inventory Summary. And we're going to merge and center the title through A through D. So I'll select cell A1 through D1. We'll go up to the Home tab, and we'll merge and center that. We'll apply a title style, and in cell A2, we're going to put a subheading as of December 31st. Alright, and again we're going to merge and center, and we'll apply a cell style. So I merge and center, and the cell style is going to be a heading 1. That was step number 17. Okay, step number 18, we are now going to select the bulbs worksheet, and I want to copy the range A4 to A8. So I'm going to select the range, and however you would like to copy, I like to do a right click and do a copy, and then I'm going to select my summary worksheet, and I'm going to click in cell. I'm going to paste this into cell A5. So I'll select cell A5. I'm going to do a right click, and then I'm going to paste. And I want to apply a heading 4 to this selection that I just pasted in. So I'll go over directly to my cell styles and apply a heading style 4 to that. In my summary sheet, I'm going to click in cell B4. I'm going to type in bulbs. Oops, actually that's going to be in cell B4. I was in the wrong cell. I'm going to type in bulbs, B-U-L-B-S, and in I'm now on. I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you. I've moved on to step number 19. All right, so I'm in cell B4. I'm typing in bulbs. I'm going to hit the tab button. That'll bring me to cell C4. I'm going to type in trees. I'm going to tab one more time, and I'm going to type in bulbs / trees. We're going to center our column titles. So I'll select, I want to select those 3 cells. I'm going to go ahead and center those. And I want a heading style 3. Okay, so I just want to double check my width here. So these are 170. I'm not sure if later on we're going to fit that. So we'll see what happens with that, because I don't like that this is falling into column B, because as soon as I put some data in here, that word stock is not going to appear. We're only going to see a piece of that. All right, so let me just double check. I'm just browsing ahead real quick. Why, and if I did that correctly. Let me just, going to pause for a second and just double check my work. Okay, so it appears that everything is correct. So we will move on. So the last thing we did was we applied the heading style 3 to our column titles. That was step number 19. So now step number 20. We are going to select cell B5, and we're going to enter a formula that's going to reference the cell in B4 of our bulbs sheet. What we want to display in here is the total items in stock for our bulbs. How do we do that? First thing we need to do is click the equal sign. All right, so the value in this cell is going to be equal to the bulbs worksheet and the total items in stock. All right, so check out the formula up here. It's equal to the bulbs worksheet and cell B4. All right, I need to make this official. I hit the enter key. It brings me back to my summary sheet. That is my existing cell. Look, it says bulbs, and it references cell B4 on the bulbs worksheet. And so we've identified our total in stock. We're going to do the same thing for the average price, right? So I can click an average price equals, go to my bulbs, locate my average price. I choose enter. All right. Notice this time I hit the enter on the keyboard. It brought me to the following cell, and it's going to be easier for me, so I don't have to keep stopping and starting and moving my mouse. All right. It's a preference. It's not a right or wrong way. All right. So again, I'll choose equals. I'll navigate to my bulbs tab. I'll locate the median price, and I hit the enter key on my keyboard. Again, equals my bulbs worksheet, my minimum price, enter on the keyboard, equals, again, my bulbs worksheet, my highest price, and enter. All right, so we've done that. And I'm just making sure. So create similar formulas to enter our average, our median, our lowest, and our highest for the bulbs worksheet into the summary sheet in the range B6 through B9, and we just did that. All right, so that's just the bulbs worksheet. Now they want us to enter. Do they mention us doing this so that the bulbs total item in stock displays? All right, let me see what we're doing here. Just double checking again that we're doing this correctly. Okay, so step number 21, we're going to do it for our trees. Okay, and so again, this time I'll choose the equals. We always begin with equals, but this time I want to select the trees tab, and I'll take my total items in stock. I hit my enter key, equals, again, my trees worksheet, grab my average price, choose the enter, equals, trees worksheet, my median price, enter, equals, trees worksheet, lowest price, enter, equals, trees worksheet, highest price, enter. All right, so that was step number 21. Now in cells D5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, we are going to insert some column spark lines. Now, they want us to format these using the sparkline styles. So in order for us to do that, we need to do these individually. Okay, so I'm going to click in cell D5, and I'm going to go up to my Insert tab, Sparkline, and I want a column Sparkline, and the data range is bulbs and trees. And I say OK. And we're going to format each Sparkline using the first 5 styles. All right. So this one is going to be the first 5 styles in the first row. So that's the first one. So next I'll click in and insert a Sparkline column that will represent my average, and I say OK. And then I'll come back to my style. I'm going to choose the second style, and I'll do the same for the third. Come back and insert Sparkline column, identify the range, come back to my style, choose the third option, insert a column Sparkline for my min, my lowest, okay, it's the min function that derived those values, right? So it's the lowest. I select the range, I say OK. Again, come back up to my styles. I'll choose the 4th color option there, and then finally we'll do the last item in this column. Insert Sparkline column. Again, identify the range. I say OK, and I'm going to choose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I selected and I did them all at once, it won't let me change the color. That's why we had to do those individually. Make sure to that range B5 through C5. To the range B5, C5, we want a comma style. Okay, I notice the bulbs does not have that. All right, so I want to make sure I apply a comma style with no decimals. All right, because this is a value. I am just going to go back to my bulbs, and I see that I have commas there. How about trees? And that does. Okay, so both of them, the one had it. So, but we're verifying that they both have a comma style. To the range that we have for B6 through C9, we want an accounting number format. All right, so yes, it does have the accounting number format, so we're good there. And we want to center this worksheet horizontally. We're going to change the orientation. We're going to put in a footer again. So I'll go to my page layout, and we will come over and we will apply a center it horizontally. We will change the orientation, add a custom footer with the file name in the left section, and we can do a little print preview and see what that looks like. Okay, and that was step number 23. Step number 24, we're going to save and close the file, and it is ready to be submitted for grading. Okay, so this completes the activity for Chapter 15, and you are ready to submit this to the grader. So if you have any questions, please, you can certainly email me through the inbox in Canvas, and please use this video as a guide to help you complete the assignment. Remember, on Wednesday we have our live Zoom sessions. Again, if you have any questions for me, you can ask me at that time as well. All right, I hope you find this video helpful.